Hello, flower friends. This is Jen, and you are listening to the Floral Hustle podcast. On this week's episode, I want to talk about auditing your circle of influence. And I've talked about like really making sure that you're having people around you that are supporting you, are supporting your goals, are supporting your dreams. But I want to like make sure that the people that are around you, sometimes we can't choose our family, obviously. We can choose our friends, and we are more in charge of that than I think sometimes we give ourselves credit for. But we are in charge of like the volume of interaction, the boundaries behind that interaction. And we're really in charge of like what we're taking in. You've probably heard the old saying, you are the sum of the five people that you hang around the most. So I would love for you to step back. Who are those people? Are they doing the things that you want to be doing? Are they people who think money, life is abundant? Are they people who think that they are victims and the world is out to get them? Are they people who share similar values for you? Are they people who are charging up the hill to fight every fucking thing that possibly could imagine because the world is filled with injustice and they are going to live in that space? If you're around the person who is always living in reactivity to the world and is making sure that that reactivity is very known, you are soaking that shit up. If you're around a person consistently who is doing the bare minimum in life, has really no hopes or dreams other than what they're doing right now, is not taking care of themselves, is running around thinking the world is a terrible place, you are soaking that up. And with soaking that up, like that is seeping in to basically like your energy, and your energy is going south. I know when I am around people who have negative energy, like I start to feel icky. I start to feel like this doesn't feel good. I start to feel like, God, look at all this bad shit that's happening. No, 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 no. Instead, I have now changed and audited my friends and family that support me being this higher end version of myself, who are drawn to that next level Jenny. And I have been a ruthless editor of making sure that I am surrounded by those people. I actually have went through iterations in my life that the person who I would say is my best friend, and this has happened a couple times, they were not in alignment with the person that I was now. We had things in common because we shared the past, but we were definitely not on the same page as our future. I had one friend that I felt like we had so much in common. We had like we both loved flowers. There was a lot of like children similarities, but when one day she blew up at me because I had been working so hard on becoming this healthier version of myself. I was overweight and like had been working out and doing all these things, and things were not moving. And I was voicing her my frustration about it because I was working so hard and it wasn't happening. And she finally said, Jenny, just can you just face that that's not meant to be? This healthier version, basically, of me that's losing weight is not meant to be. And I was like, are you serious? Like, for one, I felt like that was a super limiting belief. For two, I was like, my best friend doesn't fucking support me and can't even listen to me because she's triggered which I fucking hate that word. She's triggered about her own body self-image and having an eating disorder. Like, and to me, it's like work through your shit. Part of being a friend is supporting. And when I stepped back and I was like, that this no longer feels good. And like this is someone I talk to 3 to 4 times a day sometimes. Like, I would talk to her late at night after the kids went to bed and her kids went to bed. Like, I was so into cultivating this friendship with her, and I felt, like, betrayed because here is a person that I thought just loved me unconditionally, and there were definitely some conditions around it. And the conditions was I need to walk on eggshells because we never know when something's gonna be triggering. And there are a lot of triggering things for her, and it was just too much. I have another person who I would be consider like she was my long-term best friend, and she thought COVID wasn't real. And there was all of these things like conspiracy theories. And then all of a sudden, like she started getting really into shooting guns. And this is somebody that I've been friends with since I was 20. So 25, 20-ish, 23-ish when this was happening years. And, like, the person that she was now, like, just was not in alignment with like, her life goal was kind of figure out how to not work hard, how to kinda do the bare minimum. The world's trying to screw us all the Democrats in the world suck. And, like, I'm just like, "This no longer feels good." And anytime I, like, shared energy with her, it felt bad. But then I go to Minnesota Bride and I meet this photographer that like, yes, we are very different on a lot of things, but like wants to light the world on fire, wants to like kick ass and take names in her business, wants to scale her revenue. We could actually talk about revenue. And like there was just like this vibe of like this person is so much more me and the energy gives to me instead of depletes me. And so like audit the 5 people who are around you, and are they supporting you? Are they, like, going, "We are your biggest cheerleader, and we want you to succeed." Because if they are not, I want you to take a serious step back and go, "Is this for me?" Because if you keep doing the same thing and having the same circle of influence, how can we expect anything to change? They're still gonna tell you that you think small. They still are gonna tell you that you shouldn't be dreaming so big. They still are gonna be telling you that, like, come back to reality. I am all about dreaming big, but I'm all about building a plan, and that plan needs to be supported. Like, I literally have conversations with my husband on a consistent basis about, like, the support that I need. Like, even me doing Sunday night prep, which I've talked about, is like part of me getting my family on board with supporting my goals, me supporting their goals. So, how can you have a conversation to change that dynamic with somebody that is you can't really get rid of? A parent, a spouse, a kid. Like they can be your biggest cheerleaders if you get them on board with supporting the long-term vision of what you want to accomplish, the long-term vision of what success looks like for you, the long-term vision of making you happy, and for you to start choosing to prioritize you, your happiness, your growth. Like this is not a conversation that happens overnight, but it is a conversation that needs to start if this is where you're at. Because I don't want you to be like, things are out of control. I have people who don't support me. Like, things don't feel good. I feel like I never get anything done because, for one, you haven't conditioned your family to create the space for you to get anything done. Like, you deserve to have space. I've said this a million times, but you can't build a business on an empty cup. So if you need to create space with those who love you and that are super close proximity, like a spouse, a partner, children, you need to start training them to support what you need as well. It's not always about mom or the woman in the real whatever is trying to figure out everything and loses herself, because then you are caring for them with this empty version of yourself because your cup is empty. You've given it all away. Then you think you're going to build a business with this empty cup? That's not going to happen. You deserve to have people who are on board with, like, you are making things happen. And that can happen. This is not like some crazy thing. It starts with that initial conversation. I feel like I want to do this. I have felt like when I've talked about this before, it's like every expectation of what I previously had is still placed on me. And like, that's not going to work if I want to make this goal happen. So, do you have any ideas on how maybe we can divvy up some chores? How we could share the responsibilities of the children a little bit more? How I could just feel a little more supported because I don't. Like, you deserve that space. All right, next thing, what if it is a parent? I had this too. My mother was the queen of conditional love. So much she learned from obviously how she grew up. And that is definitely why I so try, like, so hard to make sure that I'm not bringing that, because I don't want to repeat that. How I felt sucked and was horrible. And I never want my children to feel like that. So if that is the case, you make the rules. Just because they are your parent or your whatever, your mother-in-law, your whatever, you still make the rules on what you're comfortable with and what you will soak in from them. And that could get really uncomfortable, but you deserve to have those boundaries in place so that that relationship it feels as good and non-depleting as possible. And a lot of people just feel powerless and like they don't have a choice. You have lots of choices. If something is too hard, you need to have that hard conversation. Like, this doesn't feel good. I'm really working hard on making my life feel good. And so this is what's not feeling good about this. Do you have any ideas on how we could maybe change so I'm feeling more supported in this? And that's a really hard conversation to have. And I mean, I've had that conversation. It sucks. I've had that conversation with my dad. Like, he wanted all this help for me to take care of him and then bitched and moaned all the time about it. And then finally, I just laid down a lot. Like, I can't be, he lived 3 hours away. I would have to drop everything anytime something happened. I'm the youngest out of 9 children. There were other kids that could have helped but didn't because he was owly and kind of crabby. And if you want my help, this is the conditions going forward. You need to move up here for me to help you. You need to, like, respect this. And I need your support on this because I mean, I was working full time. I did not have children yet, but I was doing like 75 weddings a year, 100 weddings a year. Like, it was bananas. And so, like, I wanted to make sure my cup wasn't empty, even though I was taking care of a parent. I was married at the time and he was like a toddler. Like, I was taking care of him too. And I'm like, my cup is empty and this is not going to work for me. So I had to realign, like, what I accepted because it wasn't working. I couldn't grow my business. I couldn't do things that made me happy, that fueled that positive energy to move forward. So think about that. Like, do you have those people in your life that you're just like, this whole thing just doesn't feel good? And by default, I think I have to have them around. I didn't talk to my mother several times in my life for years because I was like, I'm done. And in retrospect, Like, I don't. Even though she's gone now, I don't regret any of those decisions because I had to protect myself, and you can do that same thing. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It means that you are taking care of yourself. All right, the next thing I want to talk about is social media because it is in your sphere of influence. If you are constantly on, and I'm going to call out Facebook, it is negative as fuck. Like, it is crazy on how my whole like mental state changes when I am on there and soaking up like all of these terrible things are happening in the world. Going on Instagram, most people like have a change of I'm not good enough being a constant like look at all these people accomplishing all these things and how lame am I? So you need to edit the propaganda that you are taking in because like it is propaganda. Like especially on Facebook, you are taking in and then they are targeting you when you show any interest in negativity. Because that negativity is bringing you back to not being your ideal version of yourself, to not being that kick-ass business owner that is going to be doing big things. Because you're going to be like, the world is a fucking shitty place. How am I going to do any of this? Like, look at all these bad things happening. How do I think I'm actually going to make $100,000 this year when there is whatever going on in this country and there's fires in California and there's starving people and there's human trafficking and then there's bullies at school and then there's people who can't feel like themselves. Like, if we're going around and just constantly soaking up all of this bad shit, like, it is going to change your energy that you have to be guarded. Like, that there, how are you even thinking of doing any of this when the world is where it is right now? You need to be a ruthless editor of that content you take in. Next thing is podcasts. I listen to some podcasts, and after a little bit, if I can tell that person is in a changed state, or if I'm trying a new one, I'm like, this is bringing negative energy, like, I'm done. I edit the content that I consume because I want to make sure that I'm staying in a state of like happiness, abundance. That's why I go to CrossFit. I mean, I know I picked that because I like it, but I like being around people who want to kick ass and take names, push themselves, want to be fit. They want to, like, there's a certain element of mental toughness. Like, I want to be around those people. I have never, especially like the people who I've met that are CrossFit and wedding people, like, that's the kind of energy, like, I want to work with them because they're usually like kicking ass and taking names in their business. They're magnetic, their personality, they're positive. Like, I'm one person in particular, she's a hair and makeup artist around here. She's a super buff, super big into CrossFit, has a special needs child she homeschools. She homeschools her other kids because she doesn't like how school feels. And like that woman is so happy, even though she has this situation where like all these bad things happen. Her husband had cancer, all these bad things. And she is just like on fire. She has won best of in Minnesota Pride, like all these things. So like, how can you surround yourself with people like that? Because that is what is going to help start to propel you forward. Being in a container, like every time I've been in a mastermind, like that energy has been contagious. The energy of people like making shit happen is contagious. All of that like stewing of ideas like makes you think more is possible. And so we have spots in the Floral CEO Mastermind right now. If you want to be surrounded by energy that is positive, curated, you're learning, you're like there's this community between the women, like we all are working on our monthly goals and pushing them forward and supporting each other on that. We do life coaching in there, which I mean, this podcast episode is kind of a life coaching podcast episode because like this is so important that you have this circle of influence dialed in 2025. If you just want to keep everything the same, when 2026 is about to pop in and nothing has changed, like I hope you can step back and go, I didn't ruthlessly edit the propaganda I was taking in, the people who were around me. I didn't want to have difficult conversations. I let it slide and I let it bring me down. That can change. If you want to find out more about the Floral CEO Mastermind, head to thefloralhustle.com/mastermind or send me a DM. I'd love to talk about if it's a good fit for you. This is next level support that no membership out there, no mastermind, frankly, out there, because I know a couple, I was kind of the OG that brought masterminds to the floral business industry in general. And a couple have made some really weird versions of a mastermind. But this is something that will change your life. I mean, like, I just had somebody graduate after a year of being in the mastermind, and like, they are a different human. Because for one, I helped them figure out anytime I saw a pattern, I'm like, you're doing it again. You're chasing shiny objects. You're not focused. You've fallen off the wagon. You're not doing the things that you know you need to do to be successful. And like the group can see that. So if you want this year to be different, I would love to see you in the Floral CEO Mastermind. Go edit your life circle because it is going to change this year. And I want big things for you. I want you to hit your revenue goals. I want you to love your life. Like last night, I was home and I was sitting down talking with my husband. And he was like, what did you do today? And I said, well, I talked to somebody about building the rental Shopify site, talked with a coaching client. I went and I got CrossFit off my list for the day. I went to PT. I'm actually really like, this is the year that I'm going to fix my posture. I have bad posture for actually a number of reasons I'm figuring out. So I'm actually going to somebody that is doing posture therapy with me and working on my breathing mainly because she thinks that's directly related with me always kind of repositioning hunched over. And it's been fascinating. But then I was like, I went and got my nails done for the workshop because we have the business bouquets and branding workshop coming up. And I, just all these things. And he's like, sounds like a really good day. I was like, yep, it is. I love my life. I was like, I went and bought new bras too because with all the weight loss that I've had, it's shrunk. So I was like, I went and did that too while I was at the mall getting my, he's like, oh, that sounds great. So like, I also have a person that's here supporting I won the day because I had such an amazing day. Stopped and got everybody groceries, hung out and cuddled my kiddos, like all the things. Like I win every day and you can too. So let's win the day, win the week, win the year in 2025, Flower Friends. Thank you so much for listening, Flower Friend, and you have an amazing flower-filled day.